Hi guys, it's RTGo, and I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth with the last system. I don't know what order you're watching them in, but for me, the last one that we're going through here. So it's gonna be dynamic NPC dialogue. The difference with this video is it's a system that's not currently out to you guys yet. So just gonna talk a little bit more about what you guys can expect from it, as well as invite any of you that are interested in writing dialogue for it. The reason is it's a little bit more challenging and it's a little different than your typical dialogue writing from other dialogue mods. So yeah, I'm gonna just go a little bit further into it and hopefully clear any confusion, as well as give you guys an opportunity to give me feedback that I can take into account before finally releasing this. The purpose of this is to really give NPCs a reason to, for you to talk to them. In really this kind of game, it builds up this sense of community that you've come out here and you're not just a farmer, you're part of a little bit of a community, and it wants you to take these NPCs as meaningful. But as far as the dialogue goes and what they are, once you get a little bit more in depth, it's kind of shallow. And your interaction with them is really minimal, which is kind of sad, because I would argue that in almost any game, social interaction is one of the most important things. I mean, in really any game title, the way you tell stories, it's the way that you give the player a reason to be immersed in the situation that you put them in. And as much as the game might try and build up that community vibe is there, it is not held up by the NPCs by any means, and that's for me the most disappointing part of the game. And hopefully DNPCD can alleviate that and really give us a different perspective on the game, so that it's not just making money and making crops. So with that being said, just to give you guys a little bit of what to expect, there's 3 types of dialogue. There's your initial dialogue, or your static dialogue, which is what we currently have in the game, the vanilla game, which is just random lines. You walk up, you talk to them, they spit something out to you based on some basic triggers such as what day it is or what season, and most of it attributes to their personality, and then that's about it. And that's the amount of that's the interaction that you get to have with them for that day. And you do enough of that and you get a cutscene, and those are actually really well done, and I enjoy those, and they give us more insight, but there's not enough of those to really make us care so much. It's only enough to go, okay, this person is distinguished enough from this one that I might marry this NPC instead of this one. So it's the minimal amount to accomplish making you want to go through a process like that. But we're going to be adding more of that dialogue just to kind of fill in some gaps, because I don't really... I think one of the worst things is when an NPC repeats themselves, and when you see that, it's kind of like, which is bound to happen over time. But if we can fill more of those lines of dialogue, you're not going to talk to the same NPC every single day. You're going to miss certain days. So when you play through the game at different times, you'll have an opportunity to revisit some of those lines of dialogue that you missed in that first time. And so just adding basic dialogue to the mix to give that as step 1. The second type of dialogue is a little bit more dynamic, and it's kind of a situational dialogue that will occur depending on a number of factors. This is going to be trigger-based dialogue that goes beyond just something that they'll tell you on a certain day. It's the second Tuesday of summer, and they tell you something. This one's going to go beyond that. For example, you'll have Abigail, who goes to the bar every Friday with Sam and Sebastian, And when you go into that bar and when you go talk to them, they're going to be talking to you about what they're doing, what's going on. They're playing pool, Abigail's sitting there. They're going to have things to say about that. And it's going to be a little bit different, every time that you go in and do that. And, that's more of a situational type of dialogue. Or, that's based on location. You'll have other dialogue that's based on other things, such as making a friend with one NPC and then talking to that NPC's other friend or relative, and they'll kind of reflect and see that you've done that. For instance, if you become friends with Sam and then you go talk to Sebastian, Sebastian's going to have reactions to that, and he's going to take note of your actions and what you've been going out of, because it's what the game doesn't have enough of. It's you have a lot of options and choices to make in it, but it doesn't really ever kind of reflect back to you what you're doing, and that it's taking notice of that. And that's the overall goal of this kind of dialogue, is to take notice of those decisions and how you're playing the game and respond back to you based on what it is that you are doing. Give you that much more immersion. The third and final dialogue, which is the most complicated and going to take time and be difficult, but it's going to be really, really awesome. And it's the kind of dialogue that you see in bigger, AAA titles, where you have conversational trees. You say one thing to them, they say something back to you, and then you get more options based on that, and then you actually delve into a bit of a conversation. And that way, when you replay the game, you can always try different trees and seek different dialogue that will come back to you. So the replayability with these NPCs is going to make a huge difference, because your personality to them is going to reflect how they respond to you, and you can change that up. So those will be called conversations. This is going to employ a menu system that's going to allow you to do it. It's not going to be the typical little dialogue box that comes up. It's actually going to be something different that pops on occasion. And it's going to handle everything from doing a conversation with an NPC to being able to ask questions to them and give inputs on their dynamic NPC clothing. So this is where the player's interactions and influence will get to determine a little bit about how they choose to look. So these are kind of the three main types of dialogue that are all going to really package together to make it so that each new game is going to feel different, and it's going to give you more reason to want to talk to NPCs. It's going to give you more flavor for it, and immerse you more into this community and make it seem worth your time to actually go out and look for this content and try and bring it up. So that's pretty much DNPCD. It's the great thing about it is, like dynamic NPC clothing, is when we have a foundation, we have one thing, new ideas can always be brought on top of it. The goal with all of the systems that I create here are to platform so that they can constantly be built upon. For example, dynamic NPC clothing, we've added customization and via the file system, and we're adding new triggers all the time to better suit different things. We've added the variations to NPC clothes, whether they dye their hair or they wear a hat with a certain article of clothing during a certain time. And that's going to connect with dynamic NPC dialogue. And as these kind of fill in more and more time goes on, these systems are going to become more and more interconnected to give you a sense that this mod is kind of injected into the game rather than just some kind of third-party add-on. So if you guys have feedback, any ideas, if you're interested in writing dialogue, anything else, write it in the YouTube comments below, or visit me in my Discord. All those links, everything you need, all the information is down in the description. With that being said, I appreciate you guys stopping by, and until next time, have a good one.